Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. Welcome to episode 5 of our limited series, Real Life Sabbatical. And this episode is titled, What I Actually Did on My Real First Day. In episode 4, if you've been listening to this limited series, just describing how my sabbatical process is going and what it's actually like to be on sabbatical and what kind of work can anybody get done. One of the things I did in episode 4 was talk about how I plan for an upcoming day. As a reminder, I'm doing a visiting scholar position at Ohio State University this semester. So I have to commute there. It's not super far away from me, but I usually go for a day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days during the week to get some work done. But because it is a little bit of a commute, it's a little bit of a commitment to plan to be there. I can't just decide on the fly when I go what I'm actually working on. And so in episode 4, what I did was say, here's how I go about planning what I'd like to get finished. But in the interest of showing what a real life sabbatical looks like, I thought I would show you what I actually did because I took notes on what I completed, but also what did I do instead? Because sometimes as writers, we change our minds in the moment about what we're working on. I tried to capture that as accurately as possible. So for those of you that are audio only, I'm showing my original Penzu note. Penzu is just a free online note-taking app that I really like on my phone. We've done a podcast episode about it. But for me, it's just a really great space to keep notes about what it is I'm working on for content that I just don't have a place to put it. It's sort of, I try to think of it more as like a place where I need to record either some plans or some works in progress before I decide what's happening with what that piece of information is. So at least for my sabbatical, every time I go, I make a note about what I want to do that day. And so the note that we saw in episode 4 was my plan. And so what I'm showing on the screen now for audio listeners only is what things did I actually do and things that I didn't do, but I kind of changed my mind about, or I might have done something new that I wasn't expecting to do. I put that in red on the screen. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough about what I was able to get done, what I was not able to get done, and what it means. Because these episodes, while they do kind of record what it's like for me to be on sabbatical, that's not the same thing for anyone else that's trying to do it. So I want to wrap up with a couple of those things. But one of the things that I started doing in these notes is just having a list of stuff I need to bring with me when I go there. I do have an office there. I can leave things in the office. So I definitely have some things there. But I realized that I need some office supplies of various things that aren't in there that I particularly like to use. It might, of course, there's general office supplies there and things like that. But a couple other things I needed to just have a list. So, I needed to make sure I was bringing my headphones. I needed to make sure I had sunglasses in the car because in Ohio winter, I don't really care about sunglasses all that much because it's usually gray and not too sunny. So I just don't bother with them. But surprisingly, going a little bit south on a drive, I sometimes need them. So that was something I had on the list. I also had a note to bring my hard drive that is just a portable hard drive where I keep a lot of my writing projects because I was going to get into an article that is about 80% finished and it lives on that drive as well as in my in Google Docs in a Google folder that I use as my backup. And then I had a note about, of course, just some other odds and ends about what I was planning to do that day. So for bringing stuff, I managed to bring 3 out of the 4. I forgot the office supplies, but I also have some backups in my work bag, so I just didn't care. So I did all those other things, and it was really helpful to think through the night before, what am I going to need to do a sabbatical on location? And so for anybody that's moving to go to wherever your sabbatical location is, whether it's for research, if you're gone for, say, 3 weeks, collecting interviews or looking at artifacts or in the archives or you're in a lab somewhere, it was very helpful for me to just think through, what do I need to be able to do a whole day there? Do I need more pens? Do I need a notebook? Do I need Tylenol? Like whatever the stuff is. So I was happy I did that. And then I also, on this note, made a schedule about what I was planning to do. And so some of this was some research in the library. So I'd kind of carved my day up to do more researchy type things when I first got there, because that was my first real day in the library. And then to do some writing things in the afternoon after lunch. So I had a note to check out to see if Ohio State had any of a particular kind of a guide, which is similar to the kind of book I want to publish. So the book that I'm working on right now is under a certain, or the book that I'm working on now is on it's going to mimic some other kinds of books that are in a press's line, and it's very specific to scholarly publishing and all that kind of stuff. So we don't have a lot of them at my library where I am. I'm at a comprehensive university, a little bit smaller library. So I want to make sure that they had them. That was one thing I did not do, so I didn't cross it off on the list. It was something that I thought, well, that would be a good thing to do if I had time or just want to stretch my legs in the library. I just never got to it. So that will move to another thing. But some other things that I did do, and I wrote this here, was that, and not that I was expecting to do it, I have found in and this might make me sound like a crabby old lady, but I have found that I was expecting to go get a whole bunch of, books, quite frankly, because I thought, well, a lot of the stuff that I'm writing about is stuff that would probably be found in, say, an edited collection. So, a book with lots of chapters written by different folks on a certain topic. That's the kind of books that I was on the hunt for. Well, there were definitely some books there that I could get. But a lot of the things I needed, I found out, were either electronic books, or there was much more in the way of scholarly articles than I was anticipating, because I feel like my particular university subscribes to a lot of databases. This was one thing that I was not really expecting, but I was able to kind of shift gears a little bit. And while I did get some books, some of them I got there, physical books. I checked them out of the library. It was very official. I did that. I had my new ID. I did all that. But one of the things that I ended up finding was that, I could just order some of these books myself at my own library, or I could look at them as an ebook. And ebook is never my first choice, because I still like to read things in hard copy, because for me, they're more portable to take in like a car pickup line to pick up a kid or something like that. So anyway, I did end up spending more time looking up scholarly articles than I had anticipated. And one of the things that I like about Penzi, which I'm showing on screen, is that some of these articles I know I want. Some of them I could print out, because I do like to read kind of on hard copy for really important things. I will do some on screen, but I generally like to have some printouts that I can also take with me and read, before I go to sleep at night or something like that. And so what I ended up doing in my note is actually copying the links to some of these articles, the direct links, so I could get them again, because I don't know that I want these articles yet. So I haven't put them into I haven't even put the links to these in the article I'm working on, just as like a temporary holder. I know these are basically on my list, and at the moment I didn't have a place to print them out. So I just put the links in here for me to just open again and revisit. And one of the things that I found about this particular strategy, I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast, but I've found this to be very helpful when I'm trying to find some research on something and I don't know if I want something or not. I'm going to look at these the next time I go there, which should be, I don't know, a couple of days. The next time I go there, and I'm going to look at it. And if I look at it and I say, why did I want this again? I don't need it anymore. I'll probably leave the link in the note in case it ever comes back to me why I want it. But it's a good way to just hold things temporarily. So one of the things that's on my note is look at all the links that I've got for anybody watching on YouTube. It's not super exciting. I was also reading for a couple different things. I was reading primarily to find articles that used a narrative methodology about where faculty are talking about their writing processes. So when faculty interviews or survey responses are analyzed, what was the way that these were read? And I came across a really good article that had a wonderful model for how to code some of this stuff when we're talking about faculty. So I actually put that link in there and I described, so here's another thing I did in my note. I don't just drop the links in here with no explanation whatsoever, but I also don't bother with the title of the article, because sometimes the title a title of the article doesn't tell me why I want it. So what I did is I wrote a model for codes and then dropped the link. And now I know, okay, that's the article that's got a good model for how I want to do my codes. And then other things that are on the bottom of my list, I just crossed out things that I completed. So one of the things I wanted to do was find all the old pieces of this article that's 80% finished and start patching them together. I did a lot on that. I had some other errands I needed to run while I was in a big city because my particular where I live is about 50,000 people, but it doesn't have all the amenities of the cities. So I wanted to make sure I did some stuff down there. And then I also wrote down a name of a book that they had it in an ebook at Ohio State, but I really wanted this particular one in a hard copy, and I could have requested it at Ohio State through OhioLink, but that seems silly to me because if OhioLink is our interlibrary loan service, I might as well just have it sent to where I am. So that's what I ended up doing. And then I wrote a note to remind myself, like, yes, I requested this, so I didn't forget I requested it, and I've now received it. So, I mean, all in all, I would say I was able, with a good plan, to get around 80%, maybe even a little bit more than that completed. Did I get everything completed I wanted to? No. One of the things I put in there was I have a good draft of an article for Inside Higher Ed that's been sitting for a little bit. It's an article about sabbaticals, and I thought, wow, while I'm actually like on location, it would be really great to wrap that one up. Did I do that? No. I know that will be a project that I will make sure that I complete, but it's not one that has to be done today. So where we need to think when we're talking about sabbaticals for people that are either on them or deciding if you're going to go on one, if you're lucky enough to get one, I think there's a couple things that stand out here. So at the time that I'm recording this, we're now in mid-March. This particular note was left over from February 21st. So this is a while. That was the day that I made the plan for the 21st. That's when I completed the work. I've had a couple of work days since that I haven't made Penzu notes necessarily. And I want to say, first of all, I don't always make one if I know what the next step is. So I knew the next step for what I was going to work on was to continue to work on this one article. And inside the article itself, I have some Microsoft Word comments telling me what I need to do. So I didn't need to make a plan for the next time I was working on sabbatical stuff or the next time after that or the next time after that, because I already knew what the plan was. So one of the things that I think is helpful here is to decide, do you need something that actually says what your goals are to open up? If we want to go back to our one of our episodes on our regular podcast about opening a writing session, do you need to have that list in front of you to be able to get down to work? One of the joys, I think, of a sabbatical is that because you have a little bit more writing time, hopefully, there's less pressure to try to keep it all in your head, and you might be touching your writing project a little bit more frequently, that you don't necessarily need one of these notes every day. In a regular semester when I'm teaching, a heavy teaching load, I'm advising graduate students, I direct graduate program, I consult tenure track faculty on submitting dossiers, I run a faculty writing group, I coach junior high cheerleading, I have a lot going on. So on a regular semester, I have to have one of these notes to know what I thought when I had a moment to actually plan what I wanted to accomplish. So planning, I think, is one thing with a sabbatical that you might be able to make a plan for a week and decide, okay, I want to write 15 hours during this week. I want to, these are all the things I want to do. And I do think if you use Penzu or you use like a Google Doc or something else, I love the idea of sort of checking in with yourself. What did you actually get completed? So sometimes, in these notes, I'll take pictures of things. If I maybe wrote something out on a whiteboard, I'll insert the picture in there. If I had a paragraph that I want to kind of keep top of mind in the article I'm working on, I might copy that and even put it in the Penzu note and just put it in a different color. So there's lots of ways, I think, to think through how you might want to do it. The other thing that I think was helpful for me is that I had a pretty realistic plan with a couple of stretch goals. And this would be another thing with sabbatical work. Right now, I have several clients that are on sabbatical, and several of my coaches are working with clients on sabbatical. And one thing that it's in common with every single client that we have. In general, there's definitely the sense that, my time of my sabbatical is either running out, I'm wasting it, we're in the middle of the semester and I don't have anything to show for it yet. one of the ways to kind of combat that is to think through, well, what are some realistic goals to accomplish this week? So on my plan, I don't say things like write a book proposal or anything like that. I know some of the steps I need to take. I know one of my sabbatical goals, which I talked about in an earlier episode, is to get a book proposal completed this semester. Perhaps I should have some time panic that, hey, it's March 12th at the point that I'm recording this, and technically my sabbatical is over, at least from the university side of things in the middle of May. I don't have that yet. And so for me, it's been really helpful to say, well, these were the projects I wanted to accomplish. One was submitting another project that I did do. I got rid of it. That was the very first thing. The second thing was finishing up this article that's 80% done. That's where I am in the middle. And then the next one is working on this book proposal. And for me, one of the ways that I'm making sure my sabbatical time is being used wisely is that I know that the book proposal is the thing I want to do the most. And I kind of have it set in my head that I want all other work completed by April 1st. So while I don't have a lot of time, I still have a few weeks left. And so this might be a time too, as you're looking at setting goals for a week, how you might revisit them and just say, okay, what do I actually need to get accomplished during this sabbatical? Because a lot of us, I think, start out with grand plans or we pitch things to our university, but then we never actually pull them off. I know that I've got multiple things on the burner that probably won't happen. I know I have at least one or two kind of minor projects that are out there. So this is just a quick update to say that, I think it's helpful to see what you actually can get accomplished. I don't think we need to beat ourselves up about it. I've got a few things on my list that probably won't reappear again. One of the things I am planning to do, and this will be in our next episode, is kind of making a mid, I guess we'll call it like a mid sabbatical check-in, because I know I'm going to have to reprioritize a couple of things to make sure that I'm getting them complete. So stay tuned. That'll show up in episode 6, and happy writing.